The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, welcome to today's webinar from the International Society of Chief Data Officers as we resuscitate our webinar series of how data leaders succeed after what has been a hiatus of about 12 months. So welcome back, and I think we have a great beginning to this series for you, and I'll talk about that in just a second. International Society of Chief Data Officers is a group of like-minded individuals, data leaders, who look to set standards, who look to support each other, and we have a site at iscdo.org, and we would of course welcome new joiners, and we have this webinar and other activities as part of how we service our members and the wider data community. And I hope that you will, if you're not already a member, that you will actively think about joining us when you note the quality of the work that we're doing. Next slide, please. So today we are very fortunate to have Dr. Irina Steenbeek talk to us about choosing data management tools and how we can do it. Now, Dr. Steenbeek is a data governance professional of over 14 years standing, and she is an expert in the implementation of data governance frameworks. Her experience includes well-known global organizations, all the way down to sort of medium-sized national organizations, and her work has been across a wide range of different sectors. So she is well experienced in the variety of requirements that crop up when we look at our data governance requirements. She founded and is the managing director of Data Crosswords, and the author, I was going to tell you about that she was the author of 2 books, but I understand from talking at the beginning of just before this that she is the author of 4 books now, with 1 about to be published, and those titles include the Data Management Toolkit and the Data Management Cookbook. Next slide, please. Today she's going to be talking to us and sort of helping us understand how we navigate our choice in between the vast number of new data management solutions that there are out there, and understanding how they are becoming more complex, and our choices need therefore to be based upon a much greater understanding of what they do as they develop, as these products develop to meet the challenges that we have in data, and specifically the challenges that we are now facing with the development of AI technologies. Before I hand over, can I just say that we will have time for questions at the end, and there is a questions box that we would ask you to put your questions into. And Irina, welcome. Personally, it's great to have you. I'm looking forward to what you have to say. Robert, can we switch across to Irina's slides, please?
Go on the process of it. Irina, we can see your screen if you want to go full screen.
Yeah. I think I've done already. Oh, hi, everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers of this webinar for the opportunity to share my experience with you. And I also would like to thank you for joining this webinar. And for this webinar, we have I have two key goals. First of all, I'd like to share with you some high-level process of selecting different data management IT tools, or what are key points you should take into account when you're doing it. And I hope that during this webinar, you'll get more ideas on how to apply the selection process in your company. And as mentioned before, I will answer all of your questions at the end of this webinar. So where are your company now? Maybe your organization needs to comply with regulations, and for that it needs to document data lineage. You heard much about it, but you don't know where to start. Perhaps your organizations want to enhance decision-making at different management levels, and to do this, reporting practices need to be improved, and the new data warehouse must be implemented. So you're looking for the best industry practice. Potentially, your organization finally decides to improve data management practices. For that, it has been decided to implement an enterprise data catalog, and you're looking for a solution that fits your organization needs. Possibly, your organization needs to improve customer experience and wants to use different data types, including customer emails, feedback, etc., and you must implement a data lake or lakehouse. So, where you want to be? Visualize that you're at meeting with software vendors. You can clearly articulate your requirements, and you can see the pros and contrast of each solution. Picture the time you and your team discuss the implementation plan for a software solution. You know exactly what to do, and there are no useless and long discussions. Imagine you're at the meeting with your company's top management. You report on the progress of the implementation project. Everything is within the agreed timelines and budget. Envisage the time you are talking with business people about using the implementation software, so they're pretty satisfied with the tooling and will use it daily. The question is, how will you get from where you are now to where you want to be? I believe you can get there by applying an integrated data and metadata management framework. What do I mean by framework? The framework combines models and methods that help establish an operational data and metadata management capability. And a process of selecting fit-for-purpose software must be a part of such framework. I will prove my statement during this webinar. Just now, I'd like to share with you my view on common challenges with implementing data management solutions. Years ago, I was an enterprise resource planning software project manager. I successfully managed large international projects, but at the same time, I discovered several reasons why organizations could fail with their good intentions to implement systems. Unfortunately, I see the same situation with data management-related tools. However, let's be honest, this failure reasons can turn into key success factors. So let's consider 3 key reasons I'd like to discuss with you. First of all, I'd like to share with you 2 conversations I had lately. And these conversations were real. They demonstrate what companies should not do in any circumstances while selecting an IT tool. One chief data officer told me, "We bought Calibra, and now we will think about how to implement data governance." Another specialist asked me, "We decided to implement metadata management. Which tool do we need to buy?" My counter questions were, what do you mean by data governance, and what is the scope of metadata? Purchasing software without a clear understanding of the needs and goals of its implementation is the road to hell paved with good intentions. A company must clearly understand its current and future needs and specify detailed business requirements. So business needs to go first. The second challenge, or second challenge I want to discuss with you, I call it Pareto rule. What do I mean by that? I often seen that 80% of companies use only 20% of the software functionality. First, they want to limit the initial implementation costs when they start the implementation. They also often make a big mistake. They don't train internal staff and rely on external consultants. So challenge number 2 is the Pareto rule applied to software implementation and usage. The third reason resonates with the first one. A company must align its needs and requirements with the feasible scope. Any software implementation is a long-term initiative. It must finally turn from a program or project into business as usual operations. And these implementations can be time and resource consuming. Therefore, a company must balance its wishes with resources available. For this webinar, we must align several concepts: data and metadata, data and metadata management, and IT tool. Let's start with the definition of data and metadata. Let's take several data elements as an example. We see the 4 data elements from a database. What we see is not clear. We can have different interpretations of the meaning. However, the initial data become apparent if I add additional data from a physical model. These are, for example, names of the tables of columns. Then I'll link the physical data models with logical ones, so we can see that John Smith, in this context, missed customer name. And if I don't know what exactly customer name means, I also can provide a definition. So everything what you see here, these are data and metadata. Why is such an important to think about it? Because any data management tool provide functionalities that relate both to data and metadata. Now I want briefly to discuss some challenges associated with metadata, and it's very important to understand. The first challenge is that metadata in a particular context can be considered data. This is the complexity of metadata that I mentioned. Metadata in particular context can turn out to be a data. The second challenge is that metadata can be of different types. Different classifications of metadata exist. In my practice, I use the classification provided by Dema and Book, and they identify 3 types: business, technical, and operational. I don't know which classifications you use, but it can be different approaches. The next challenge is that a single element or complex construct can present metadata. For example, the name of data owner is a single element of business metadata. But be aware that data lineage is also a complex metadata construct comprising business and technical metadata elements and other metadata structures. So, and the last challenge is that metadata can have multiple sources. For example, data models are metadata produced in IT tools with data modeling capabilities. A metadata dictionary is usually a product of metadata repository or data catalog. So I can continue this list for a long time, but I'd like really you keep in mind these challenges by one reason, because all of these challenges will impact your decision regarding a data management or metadata management tools. Now let's agree on the definition of data and metadata management. You must be aware that different industry guidelines have different viewpoints on the structure and content of the data management and metadata management capabilities. In this webinar, I'll use the metadata management data management model, which is part of the Orange data management framework I use in my practice. So I don't want to spend much time, but the key point is that data lifecycle management is the core capability of data management. By supporting the data lifecycle, an organization transforms data into meaningful information and by that delivers business value to its stakeholders. 2 strategic capabilities define the direction of data management. These are business architecture and governance, and there are plenty of other capabilities that support or enable core and strategic ones. Why it's essential to understand the scope and the structure of data management? Because when you choose a data management tool, you must know which type of capabilities you need to implement using these tools. It's also essential to realize that some of these capabilities we just discussed deal with data and some deal only with metadata. Sometimes they deal with both. For example, I mark the capabilities that mainly deal with data with orange color and other lilac. What is important to keep in mind is the following. Metadata creates the context for data. So for doing something with data without context or metadata is practically impossible. It's essential to understand the relationships between data and metadata management. For that, we need to answer the question about the role of metadata management. From one side, metadata management enables a data lifecycle. I hope you all know what data lifecycle is. It's the set of stages which data undergoes from the moment of its creation to the moment of its archiving or deletion. So metadata management, as I mentioned already, it enables a data lifecycle. From another side, it manages a metadata lifecycle. Let me demonstrate this point using this slide. So we started with data lifecycle. A data lifecycle is a model that describes the core processes. It's also wise to noting that there is no standard data lifecycle model. It can be that this model will depend on the industry, on your organization business. To realize this model in practice, you need a set of multiple data management capabilities which we just discussed. And as I mentioned, different data capabilities deal with data or metadata, and they support different steps or processes of a data lifecycle. So you can see, for example, the data lifecycle management, data quality, they support some particular steps. Data governance and enterprise architecture supports, for example, modeling and describing of data. What I also would like to share with you that all of these capabilities share metadata with each other. For example, you can do any data transformation without having data model. So it means data model is a metadata, and data modeling capability deliver this metadata in order to enable a data lifecycle. Data moves within and between IT tools like applications, databases, and ETLs. It means that these applications enable data management capabilities and produce metadata. So I'd like to stress again, why am I talking about this topic? Because each data management tool you're selecting will deal with some data management capabilities, and you must be aware what kind of capabilities you need. So what does metadata management do? So as I mentioned, first, it manages metadata required for enabling the data chains, but it also enables and manage metadata lifecycle, because for metadata lifecycle, you need other tools that will deal with it. If, for example, we will speak about a data catalog, it's only a tool that manages metadata. If we will speak about data lineage tool, it's also a tool that deals with metadata. However, if you will pick up some sort of integrated platform that includes multiple capabilities like data cataloging and data profiling, it may happen that this tool will deal simultaneously with data and metadata. So the last topic we need to agree upon is the definition of IT tool. I don't want to pay attention much to it, but let's agree with that we use the following definition. This is a data asset required for enabling a data and metadata lifecycle and documenting data management artifacts. So I'd simply like to ensure that you understand what I'm talking about when I speak about IT tool. As I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we need a framework to help us select an IT tool that fits an organization purpose and resources. In my practice, I use the Orange Data Management Framework, and it consists of 6 core stages. Finally, even if you take a look at a selecting process of a data management tool, you will see that the main core steps described in the data management framework are also steps you need to perform during the selection procedure. For example, at stage 1, organize, you need to scope your initiative considering various factors, and these factors depends on the nature of the data-related initiative. So in this webinar, I will go through these factors and describe factors you need to take into account while selecting IT tools. Then you need to design the required data management capabilities. It's stage 2, render. In stage 3, activate, you define the implementation approaches, methods, and plans. And stages 4, 5, and 6 are closely related. They focus on defining key performance indicators and measuring maturities. Oh, sorry. So for those, I think people already, my colleagues introduced me. My name is Irina Steinbeck, and I'm a recognized data management practitioner and coach with over 14 years experience, and my key areas of expertise are setting up data management and maturity frameworks and metadata management, focusing on data lineage and knowledge graph. So far, I published 4 books, and I also opened my online Data Crossroads Academy that includes multiple free and paid webinars. Now let's move on with our webinar and start discussing the methods of selecting IT tools. I will start with the first stage or step that helps you scope your initiative. I want to demonstrate several factors you must consider when selecting IT tool. First, you start your initiative by answering the question, why does your organization need this software? Coming back to my first one of my first examples, when a person told me we bought Calibra to implement data governance, I didn't get what they meant by that because they didn't know what data governance was. For example, one organization thinks it needs a data catalog, but you should know why you need it. I can share with you one of the examples. Oh, sorry. I spoke to a team of metadata management professionals who developed a metadata strategy, and they wanted to implement a data catalog. And what they told me literally, when we will implement, we will go to our business stakeholders to convince them to use it. And when I asked, why didn't you go before asking why they need it? Oh, but it's not a time for them just now to think about it. So this is one of the biggest mistakes, which unfortunately I see very often in data management tool implementations. Another point I'd like to stress that each business reason why you need some software will have corresponding groups of business stakeholders, and each group may have different needs, concerns, levels of influence and involvement. Here I'd like to stress to share with you one of my core expertise area, data lineage. From one side, everybody in the company thinks they need data lineage, but from another side, if you talk to business people and if you talk to technical people, they have quite different understanding why they need it and what for they're going to use it. So it's very important immediately to start thinking why and why does the company need it, and also go deeper to identify the specific requirements of each stakeholder group. Let's briefly discuss each of these factors. Let's think about the ultimate goal of each organization. In fact, all organizations have the same goal: to survive in the long term. They can do it either by increasing revenue or decreasing costs. And several typical business initiatives can support these goals. We can consider compliance with regulations, increasing business efficiency, etc. So, and if I ask you about your organization's experience, I think I would find out that you will mention some of these or all of these business reasons or business drivers. But just now, let's briefly speak about stakeholders. Let me give one example. If I choose improved decision-making as my core business reason, what may happen? For example, a member of a C-suite team will need improvement in delivering strategic KPIs. This is why he or she needs this initiative. A staff member of a marketing team will need improvements in delivering daily information on marketing campaign. And the level of her influence may be lower, and maybe they still can be actively involved in this initiative. The head of finance department will need a daily P&L for each region. And I hope you may ask, why is such an important? I think that the answer is very obvious, because all of these people will need totally different data. They will have totally different requirements for delivering this data. So it means that analyzing these requirements already may help you to find out and establish a feasible scope, because for all of these people, if you take a look, you maybe not be able to manage all data simultaneously. So you will need to set up some priorities. So now let's consider other factors that will influence the choice of your software. The first one is can be different types of data management initiatives, because several data initiatives can lead to satisfying one business need. Again, I'll take a business driver, improved decision making at the core business driver. But let's take a look. We can think about you need more customer information, but for that you need to new data sources, and it also can be additional or other data management initiative. But for that you need, if you need new data sources like unstructured data, you may require to set up a new data architecture, and it again can lead to a new totally different data management initiative. At the same time, you may need to improve your data quality, and of course, to analyze new data, you need to set up advanced data analytics by applying artificial intelligence or machine learning. So again, all these factors must be considered to make the initiative feasible. Let's assume you will concentrate on customer-related data to improve decision-making. The next factor can be the limitation of data scope. In my practice, I use different data classifications to help my customers limit their initiatives. So in our situation, we will definitely think about structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data, definitely digital. You may think about whether it will be stored data or on the fly. You may also think about operational and analytical data, master, transactional, and metadata. Yeah, so it's already by start thinking what kind of data you need. You again, it again can help you to make your to scope your initiative properly. Then we also need to consider which data management capabilities are needed to proceed with data in scope. As we discussed, data management is a complex overarching capability that include multiple capabilities, and they deal simultaneously with data and metadata. And again, the question, when you're selecting a solution, you must think which capabilities have already been implemented in other tools and which capabilities the new tool must possess. The next factor, and it's I can spend hours talking about it, it's data architectures, because just now on the market we speak about centralized data architecture and data warehouse, data lake, or combination of data warehouse with data lake house, data fabric are examples of centralized architecture, while data mesh, it's decentralized architecture. And for all of these different types of architectures, you will need different solutions. The same, just now, what I've seen, I'm really very curious and with data mesh architecture, because I started first working my life with this type of architecture in 2020, and I see that more and more companies realized they are not able to implement the data mesh in classical approach, so they are looking for some sort of hybrid approaches. So all of these questions must be answered before you really start selecting software solution. And of course, if you want to phase out your software implementation, it's wise to classify your data chains into critical and non-critical. It may happen then that your solution will be selected tool can be applied or used only in one or several data chains, but again, it depends on the data architecture that you should think about. The next step will be developing a plan for your software product. And the key attention point is to balance your organization business needs and requirements with the resources available. When creating the plan, it's always recommended to start small, perform a pilot project, and only after that roll out your project to the whole enterprise. However, you should know that some proof of concept projects can also require months to complete. I witnessed a proof of concept project for data lineage for the mainframe that continues for 1 year and 4 months. It's proof of concept, yeah. So you must be always prepared for some unexpected surprises. And at this stage, you also may think about defining requirements, functional and non-functional. Until now, you only identified the needs and concerns of various stakeholder groups. Now it's time to deepen into the subject and transform the concerns into requirements. In my experience, it can take several months to complete and align the requirements of different stakeholder groups. Let's briefly take a look at the examples of functional and non-functional requirements. Let's first start with functional requirements. The first type is functionalities to support the required data management capabilities. And they will intensely depend on the nature of your software solution and required data management capabilities. For example, requirements for a data lineage tool will differ from those for a data quality solution or a data catalog. Another type of requirement is integration. For example, implementing a data modeling tool must be integrated with a data catalog. Another example is the integration between data quality and data lineage solution. The third type of requirements is the requirement for particular functionalities. Let's take data lineage as an example. You can document data lineage at various abstraction levels. So your requirements can relate to these various levels, and you must link them vertically. And at the end, of course, you may think about some industry-specific requirements. For example, compliance with regulations is mandatory for financial institutions. Therefore, it makes a great impact on selecting IT tools for the industry. Now let's briefly talk about non-functional requirements. First is scalability. The tool must be scalable and capable of handling increasing amount of data and users without degradation in performance. And this includes dynamically scaling resources up or down based on demand. But as I mentioned before, while implementing any data management tool, you must think simultaneously about the data volumes, but also metadata volumes. The next requirement is performance. The solution must offer high performance in terms of data processing speeds, especially when dealing with large data sets or complex metadata structures. I can give you a practical example. While implementing a data lineage solution for a small part of application landscape, I think that they included maybe 7 or 8 applications. We already, at the first stage, we had 500,000 metadata objects and 1.5 million of relationships. So you can imagine that performance for data lineage tools is one of the key attention points while selecting a solution. The next requirement is usability. The interface, for example, should be user-friendly, allowing users with various levels of technical expertise to interact with tool efficiently. And as I mentioned, for example, for data lineage, it's very important because data lineage tools can be used by different stakeholders with totally different level of knowledge and technical skills. And of course, reliability is critical. Let me demonstrate you several functional requirements for data lineage, simply explain what I mean by that. And to be on the same page, data lineage is a description of a data movements and transformations at various abstraction levels along data chains, and especially it's important relationships between data elements at these levels. So I got permission from several providers to use print screens from their tools. So it's not like I prefer one tool from another. My opinion is every tool has a lot of useful features, and the most important to know what you need. So for example of first functional requirements, data lineage should have a graphical representation as a chain of linked metadata objects and relationships between them. Second example is a solution must have feasible metadata about different metadata objects. So here, for example, you can see metadata as a separate box, or other solutions have other options. So, but it's something you should really think about when defining your requirements. The following example of the requirements is the drill up and drill down functionalities. This functionality is essential when documenting data lineage at multiple abstraction levels. So, and so on and so on. Just now, I want to share with you some results of my analysis of various data management solutions offered at the market. Last year, I performed several analyses, and this year as well, of various data management solutions. Sometimes I had a feeling that it was a mission impossible, and I can share with you some challenges I faced. So those who are interested in this topic can read the series of articles on my site. So almost a year back, I analyzed 168 data management related tools. The slides shows the classification of the tools I analyzed. I considered data management, governance, lineage, metadata management, and knowledge graph tools. I discovered several challenges. Challenge number one, it's that some solutions can be labeled differently depending on the source. For example, Calibra has been labeled as metadata management, data governance, data management, and data lineage solution. The same applies to Talent. Of course, these solutions integrate multiple functionalities. It clarifies the difference in labeling. However, the challenge is that some of these functionalities can be leading and others simply enabling. So the critical question is which functionalities you really need. Do you really need metadata management solution, or do you need to have data lineage? So this is also one of their attention points while selecting a software. The second challenge is the following. The tool's labels don't match the generally accepted terminology and don't match between vendors. This slide demonstrates the functionalities included in data management and data governance tools. This slide demonstrates one of the most significant challenges in the data management community. We don't have a line definition of data management and data governance, because what you can see, the yellow color represents data management tool and orange is data governance. So finally, independently how data management tools has been labeled, they offer the same functionality. And sometimes these functionalities even don't meet or don't match our understanding of this capability. The third challenge is that solutions with similar labeling have quite different functionalities that often don't correspond to their labels. If you take a look at this slide, and especially at the bottom of the slide, all you can see this functionality is regarding data lifecycle management. And I wonder, even if data governance tool really must support data lifecycle management. I don't think so. But it's again the question of labeling, of defining different concepts. But this is what you should be really aware while selecting tools. The next challenge is that terms are not aligned between vendors. Different vendors use entirely various names to describe or classify their tools. Many of them use the title platform. And this slide represents the titles used to describe the 24 data management tools. However, it's impossible to find the underlying definition of these titles on the vendor side. So it may happen that the same title, for example, platform, has multiple meanings depending on the vendor's viewpoint. We can see that 14 of 24 vendors use the term platform. However, some vendors need further clarification of this term. For example, Atacama is a data management platform, Calibra is a data governance platform, data integrity suite, so a lot of different approaches. And it simply demonstrates that we don't have aligned titles or definitions of data management tools and corresponding concepts. The next challenge is using hype words like AI, Gen AI, etc. In my opinion, artificial intelligence by itself has no business value. AI enables some data management functionalities. For example, machine learning, which is also AI, has already been used for several years in data cataloging. And when I see some vendors say we have AI, for me it means nothing. I need to know for which business capabilities it has been used. And believe me, that many steps in data lifecycle management have been already empowered by AI functionality or machine learning functionalities for years. Data mesh is another example. Classical data mesh requires an advanced integrated platform that combines data application and technology architecture capabilities. And be aware that not all tools that declare support for data mesh really can do it. The same goes about Data Fabric. Data Fabric is not one platform. This is type of architecture that requires multiple platforms and tools. So because we don't have an aligned understanding of trending concepts, you may face challenging in selecting software tools. So it means only the one point. You must exactly know what you're looking for, and you can't rely on promises by vendors. Many tools have great functionalities, I'm sure about it, but you also need to be fully aware what kind of functionality you need. Let me summarize what existing data management tools can do. First of all, they can and must enable multiple data lifecycle stages. At the top of the slide, you see the common lifecycle steps. And at the bottom of the slide, you see the corresponding capabilities provided by suppliers. So you can see that solutions with quite different labels provide this functionality. So you can see at the low level, data fabric, data governance, data lineage, data management, knowledge graph. So it's a very challenging point that when you're looking at knowledge graph or data lineage functionality and you find out it can also provide enable data lifecycle. So it's some strange stuff in our data management community. Data management solutions also must enable different data management capabilities. So this slide simply reminds you of the core data management capabilities, but the key point is the following. All of these capabilities are interlinked and interrelated with each other. The point is that outcomes of some data management capabilities serve as input to others. So that's why the integration capabilities of different IT solutions are very important. Nowadays, many vendors offer integrated solutions. I will share with you several examples. For example, here you can see data and metadata management capabilities. You can see a huge variety of different capabilities supported. Data classification, business glossary, data dictionary, whatever you want. Yeah, but it's again the question, what kind of capabilities you need. As I mentioned, nowadays many vendors offer integrated solutions, and I will show you several examples of metadata solution providers. On the slide, you see the example functionalities offered by Orion Governance, and you can see that they combine multiple functionalities like data cataloging, data governance, data lineage, and etc. The same is applicable for Alex solution. They also have multiple integrated capabilities. So the question is not that one solution is better than another. The question is what kind of requirements you have, and then this one of the tools must meet your requirements the best. Let's take a look at some important functionalities you should consider. Many companies nowadays require data lineage solutions linked to data governance. Multiple data glossaries and semantic models are another example. This is this functionality, especially with multiple data glossaries and semantic models, are very important to for companies that are going to implement data mesh or other form of business domain architecture. Another helpful feature is retrieving logical and physical data models. It's not a secret that many companies may not have documented physical and logical data models. So when a solution can retrieve, and again with help of AI or machine learning functionalities, can retrieve logical and physical data models, it can be very helpful for your organization. Data quality capability is also often integrated with data lineage functionality, and the capability can demonstrate the change in the quality of data attribute along a data chain. This is one of their maybe most attractive features nowadays. Machine learning technologies enable the creation of semantic layer and mapping data elements or attributes from different data sets via a semantic layer. It's a very interesting functionality that I would say some sort of second type of data lineage or second approach to document data lineage. However, you must be aware. A couple of months ago, during my workshop in London, I got a very interesting example. People shared with me the situation. They bought a data catalog solution with one of their goals to implement also data lineage. And they were promised that catalog includes data lineage functionality. However, what happened that the catalog built data lineage based on analysis of data sets, and data catalog was a cloud solution, but unfortunately the company wasn't allowed to put data sets into the cloud. So this is again a very good example or when you exactly need to know what you need. You need clearly identify and articulate your requirements to your vendors. So the last step in solution implementation will be establishing the business case or in solution implementation project. So you must evaluate required investments, select a solution that best fits your requirement, and train an internal team for the tool implementation. So this is the last slide of my presentation, and I'd like, I simply put on you for you especially this 4S solution selection principle. So this principle must remind you that there are 4 key steps you must undertake to select a proper data management solution. You need to define scope. You need to define your functional and non-functional requirement. You must assess existing IT tools available on the market. And then, of course, you must make the best fit choice based on resources available in the company. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you. If you'd like to know more, you can always reach me out via my site datacrossroads.nl. You can find plenty materials there, and you can connect me on LinkedIn. So thank you very much, and just now we can move to question session if you have questions, because I can't see so far.
Irina, hi, it's Mike. We do have some questions, not least of which there's a couple from me. I've listened intently to what you had to say, and I think one of the things I picked up was that you're really saying caveat emptor to all of us. You know, buyer beware. In that, if you're buying without a full understanding or even indeed full disclosure of not just the requirements, but the capability limits that have been placed upon your data, such as you just talked about, the organization that wasn't allowed to put its data into the cloud. Some of these possible solutions are going to trip you up with, you know, lots of shiny words that attract you to what they can do, but actually they turn out to be unable to deliver. Is that essentially what you're saying?
Yeah, essentially what I'm saying, you need to know what you need before you're going to buy it. As simple as it is. Because otherwise, you know, if you don't clearly identify what is required, especially by business users, because, you know, as I mentioned, we have different type of users, and it may happen that business users may have quite different requirements from technical users, and you need to take into account the requirements of all users and then find solution that will meet the requirements. But at the same time, you must know exactly what you need and why you need it.
And I think the sort of the development of that question is therefore is that we need to read between the lines as well, because
you need to know, because it's exactly what I mentioned. You know, my example about data lineage, people who thought, okay, we need data lineage, and they were told, yes, you will have data lineage. The example, it's very simple. People didn't know what they needed. People didn't know what data lineage meant. And then they simply faced the problem.
Yeah, sure.
Just
a quick one. Della, I saw a hand up there from you. I think if you put your question into the question tab, which for me appears on the right-hand side of my screen, inside the box, we can take your point forward. So we've also talked about AI here, and you've talked about AI actually having been around, and we all should know this, a little bit longer than the hype would suggest. And a lot of what we're being told is that we need data management, data governance to match AI, and yet here we're saying, we've got tools that perhaps are not yet. Some of the tools are not yet sort of optimized to produce a data solution that can support machine learning, can support those sorts of AI type functionalities. Is that how you see it?
No, I see it quite differently. What I've seen already, a lot of modern data management solution already included AI functionalities. We must remember that AI has very broad type of technologies or methodologies. Like machine learning, it's one of the examples of AI. Just now, all people, fancy with Gen AI, but Gen AI, it's only some sort of a feature that must be combined with other AI functionalities. So, I started analyzing recently the dependencies between data management or governance, data governance and AI governance, and I see a lot of relationships. In fact, they must be integrated because everything what we speak about AI governance and everything what goes about AI, it's simply data. We have data to go into AI models, and models, it's also data, and output, like synthetic data, it's also data. So finally, in my future development plan for this year, I'm going to spend some time on demonstrating how our companies must link AI governance with data governance, however the approaches differ. But we also must think about that many solutions that just now have been used by companies already include these components. So it's not something that it will come, it's already something that it's come to our practice. And we simply need to understand it. We need to be very pragmatic and practical regarding it, not...
Well, we're having a burst of questions at the moment. First one is from Della. I am seeing a trend of combining traditional records management policies and procedures as a subset of data lifecycle policies. Do you see any challenges or risks in potentially diluting records retention requirements?
No, because, in one of my slides, I demonstrated that when we define our the scope of our data management initiative, we must clearly understand about which data we are talking about. And it may happen that unstructured data or data on physical representations, it's also kind of data. Yeah, for me, data is rather wide concept, and we simply must understand what we are talking about. But I don't see any problem when we'll start combining, because also the challenge is that data management by itself, it's a very broad concept, and it includes multiple data management capabilities. The question is how an organization sets up data management as a business function. because it's also not one department or one business unit. It also must be split in different business units. So I don't think it's I don't see any problem with that.
Okay, super. And we have a question from Bob Rehack here, who says he's interested to understand about a divergence with respect to the amount of development in using Python for data management engineering tasks, and the fact that the current tools to capture metadata and lineage are not able to process Python, hence loss of visibility to the data lifecycle.
You know, this is, I can share with you my feelings and my impression. A lot of many professionals speak about data management. They forget that metadata management is an unavoidable part of data management. However, companies pay less attention to metadata management rather to data management. And this is, I think, one of the key improvements point each organization must think about. I can share with you one of the examples. Last year, I negotiated the delivering of extended course on data management capabilities for data architects. And when I haven't seen the topic of metadata management, I asked why not. And they say, yeah, we don't need metadata management. Hello, how are you going to integrate data without metadata? So I think this is simply our misunderstanding of the role of metadata, because this year I delivered several workshops simply on the topic of metadata. Because metadata, it's not only technical metadata, it's a much broader concept. And companies somehow, they build data architectures and forget that they need also to build metadata architectures. And again, the volumes of metadata can exceed the volumes of data itself.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Thank you for two full answers to two testing questions. I think we're going to call it time there in the parlance of the Cricket World Cup now taking place in the US and the Caribbean. We'll call that stumps. And I'd just like to remind you, well, I'd like to thank Irina first. I think that was a brilliant, detailed presentation with some great information there for all of us, no matter what our level of understanding. And I've got a couple of takeaways to take with me back into work. So that's been brilliant, and I hope that everybody else has found it equally as useful as I have. So thank you, Irina.
Thank you.
We will be posting your webinar as we do for all our webinars to iscdo.org, our website. And if you missed it, if you want to revisit it, or if you just want to sort of catch up on Irina's contact details, that they will be there for you to get that. So from me, Mike Soes, the Executive Director of ISCDO, thank you very much to Irina for coming and giving such a great presentation, to Robert for setting it all up, and to you as well for attending and asking such great questions. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.